Viewers, welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about everything to do with personal injuries in Victoria. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer of over 25 years' experience. With me tonight I've got Nunzio Tartaglia, a partner in a law firm.
Tony, Vivian, viewers, welcome.
And also Vivian Ryan, a lawyer come marketing guru. Good evening, Vivian.
Hi, Tony. How are you? Hi, Nuns. Viewers.
Tonight, viewers, we've got a number of stories to talk about, but the topic of conversation will be about suicides, psychiatric injuries, depression, insurance, and we've got a sensational guest by the name of Kate Carnell. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Beyondblue, but that's at the break. Right now we're going to be talking about a number of articles that are current. Nunz, the first one's about something close to your heart, a patient escaping from a psychiatric ward at a hospital. Tell us a bit about the facts.
Yeah, what happened was a patient was admitted to hospital and then somehow escaped. They actually don't know how the patient escaped, and unfortunately was hit by a train soon thereafter and obviously passed away. And look, Tony, you know this. I've got 2 or 3 cases that have been very similar to this. One was a family member as well, and unfortunately is a bit more of a common trend in our public health system. So it's a bit of a worry.
Vivian, this is at least 12 people that have been killed in similar circumstances. It's a bit...
It's really concerning, Tony, because when people are admitted into psychiatric hospitals, you would expect that there would be some level of care, and that would one of those things is certainly the safety. And they're proposing to put airlock doors into some of the units. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, that would be a benefit, but I still think the bigger issue is the diagnosis at the start when they're admitted, and I suppose coming to a formal decision as to whether they should be under involuntary treatment order or a voluntary treatment order. There's more emphasis must be on the start on the diagnosis, because you need to see what type of risk they are in terms of their personal safety.
And Nunzio, you had the example of the young man that was severely disturbed psychiatrically.
Yep.
The mother took him to a psychiatric ward. They said to her, "Don't worry, he's in good hands." An hour later, she gets a phone call to say, "Do you know where your son is?"
Yeah, and unfortunately, he'd escaped from the back gate of like a little sort of garden area at the psychiatric ward. And then made his way onto a tram to the Balti Bridge and attempted suicide. Fortunately, he's still alive and with us today, but disastrous.
He's survived with horrific injuries.
Oh, look, he won't never be the same, but it's amazing that he did survive, to be honest. So.
Well, it's really concerning also for the parents, because the mother, I met that mother of your client, and she was absolutely devastated because they need help, and where to from there then?
Look, in this particular instance, he was under 15-minute watch, and for that 1 hour, when she said, are you going to look after him, something happened. They forgot to, I suppose, watch over him, and went AWOL, unfortunately.
All right, let's move on. Owner of a house, slow to move, to get a heater looked at, and 2 young children die.
This is absolutely devastating. I can only imagine what the mother must be going through. Essentially what happened was they were tenants of a property. The landlord had been asked to service the gas heater in the property a number of times. He just thought it was a generic letter and dismissed it. One evening the mother put her children to bed, and during the course of the evening they had crawled into her bedroom, obviously feeling a level of discomfort for them to have done that. She awoke the next afternoon after being awoken by a phone call, and she found that her 2 young sons weren't moving. She made a call to her former husband, and then they later found out that they had actually died from carbon monoxide poisoning. She actually couldn't move her arm either at the time, so she had been debilitated in some way as well as a result of the poisoning. But this is just such a tragedy, and for people who own their own rental properties, there must be some level of, whether it's accountability or just certainly awareness, where they need to be doing these regular checks.
Look, I think it's a bigger issue than that. I mean, every homeowner should be aware of these risks, and also criminal liability could attach to the...
It could. I think in this case, the landlord only has been, I suppose, only decided to give evidence at the coroner's inquest on the basis that there'll be no effectively criminal implications, from what I understand. So he's worried about, or he or she's worried about the potential ramifications criminally. So,
but what can this family do now? if we were in that
can sue
circumstance.
civilly. This is your area, Nunzio.
Yeah.
Psychiatric.
Basically nervous shock
Nervous
injuries
shock.
as a result of the death of the two children. And look, if he knew that there was issues with the heater and did nothing about it, it's really an open shut.
It seemed to be that he did have.
I think he's conceded that.
Yeah, but the agent wrote to him a few times saying, you need to, look at the heater or at least, fix it or replace it. And he, it's his fault that he thought it was just a standard letter. He needed to, make the relevant investigations and inquiries, and he didn't do it.
And Vivian, under the Wrongs Act, the mother, the father, and possibly any other close family members would have a claim under nervous shock, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and all they need to do is obviously, one, prove fault on behalf of the landlord, and secondly, show that you've got a psychiatric condition that's over 10%, what's called whole person impairment, according to these medical guides that are in place. And look, with the death of two children, I don't think that's an issue, Tony.
And when you start talking about fault, it's only on a balance of probabilities.
That's right.
You have to tip the scales only 1%.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think the facts sort of speak for themselves in this regard.
Such a tragedy.
We've got an interesting story here, viewers. This is actually a bit funny. Shame drinkers say docs. What they're doing in Cardiff is they're showing the video footage of people going into emergency wards, carrying like 2-bob watches, just to try and embarrass them after the event. And they say it's a breach of privacy. I reckon it's fantastic. What do you think?
Look, I actually think it's a very good initiative, and if those people or inebriated people see what the state they're in the night before, I think they'd be pretty embarrassed by some of the things that they say and do. So.
I think it's absolutely something we should definitely be looking at. Particularly, I mean, it is quite comical to see yourself drunk. I don't know if anybody else.
Not when you start swinging and belting on the emergency.
There is a greater issue where the staff are concerned for their safety, and I think recently there've been calls to have some sort of armoury in hospitals in order to protect themselves. So perhaps this is a softer approach. So let's see what Cardiff do. Is that still continuing?
No, they say it's a breach of privacy.
I was about to say, there must be privacy issues.
Yeah.
You have to get the consent of the inebriated patient to film them.
Look, we've got to keep moving. There's the story of Mrs. Broadbent who committed suicide, and Fairfax Media took her story in advance. Viv, what do you think about that?
Yeah, this is a story written by Julia Maddow, who we know. She's a wonderful journalist. It's really a really topical area now, again, raising the issue of euthanasia. This woman, Beverly Broadbent, talked to Julia about her desire to end her life with dignity. She had all her faculties, but her concern was that she was going to suffer down the track and be a burden on society, and she certainly didn't want that. And in February of this year, she actually took some painkillers and ended her life, raising again the debate, can people... Euthanasia and...
Yeah, look, it's an issue that polarises the community, and everyone's got different, stances on it, but it was actually a very well-written story because it's a very sensitive issue, and how do you, I suppose, write about something like that in advance? So she's
Mrs. Broadbent,
very brave.
Nunzio, Mrs. Broadbent said she was in a lot of pain to do with age, and it was her choice, but if someone assisted her, they could be charged, but because she did it on her own, she's allowed to do it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think Fairfax then wrote just an article, speaking of their position on it, and that they obviously had no involvement, and that they were really just commenting on, her wishes and her, desire to end her life. So.
Yeah.
Viewers, give us your Facebook and Twitter comments on this. It's a very touchy subject, so obviously we understand the complexities of it, but we've got to go to a sponsors break. But before the break, I just wanted to touch on the fact that we've got Cape Carnell coming on after the break, so please stay tuned for that.